Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. Derek, I got an important video for you guys today, but not one that I would call fun or exciting. That is because in the last 24 hours we learned the news that Myrient, a video game preservation and hosting site, is going to be shutting down and removing the website at the end of March. And even if you've never heard of this website before, and I feel like a lot of people haven't, this is absolutely an encapsulation of the history of video games. We're not just talking about stuff that you could go find anywhere, we're talking about stuff for obscure systems, entire collections, and even archival redump of different discs that would allow you to play these games into the future forever in a perfect bit-for-bit dump of them. And unfortunately, this isn't anything that has to do with any sort of DMCA. This is actually just part of the AI issue going on with a couple other things around the edges. But trust me when I say this is absolutely a monumental, massive loss for video game history and preservation, because Myrient has things that you're going to find absolutely nowhere else, and I use it when I do videos on stuff when either the games that I own have floppy disks that I can't read, or otherwise we have to talk about rare versions where you have to patch them for translations or otherwise. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But I'm talking about stuff like entire redump archives of the Sharp X68000, including games that are exceedingly rare that maybe had 1 to 200 copies ever made back in the day. We're talking about PC98, we're talking about FN Towns Marty, and of course basically all the PlayStation, Xbox, and otherwise consoles you could think of as well. But this is basically the Library of Alexandria when it comes to video game preservation. You can feel about it how you want, but I'm telling you this is a big deal. And you'll see here it has over 390 terabytes of organized collections publicly available for download. And again, this is one of those sites you can argue about it in the comments, pro or con, just be nice about it, because you know I let you talk about anything in the comments down below. But it's one of those things. A lot of what is on Myrient is available nowhere else, and hopefully this all gets backed up and added somewhere to the internet, because we're talking about games that could potentially be lost. And you'll see here on the website, it states that it's shutting down on the 31st of March, which is going to be the end of next month. And this is just basically a confluence of issues that is causing this to actually happen. But before we get into those, let's talk about what Myrient is. It was a very handy site because it allowed multiple concurrent downloads, so you can actually grab more than one game at once, but that definitely costs as far as the bandwidth is concerned and those concurrent connections. And it's just one of those things. It had no pop-ups, it had no paywalls. Yes, there was a donate button, but it was basically a very safe site to use as well. And again, this is something that has been crucial for me when I do certain videos, because if you know me and you know the channel, I haven't actually run this video yet. I love collecting big box and rare Japanese PC games, and I own the hardware to be able to play them on. But sometimes one of those 5 1/4 or 3.5 inch floppy drives just does not want to read on a system. You have a game, you have a machine, but for some reason you can't actually run it on the machine. But you can make fresh backups of those disks, and I do have floppy disk writers that go via USB in my collection, and then you can actually play the game on the systems. Or in the FM Towns Marty's instance, I own an optical disc emulator, the Doc Brown, and I will put the games on there from Myrient, the ones in my collection. And I know it sounds crazy, but this is something I actually do, because if you go into the redump archives for all of those different Japanese games, you're going to see Ballad for Maria here, a very rare and interesting visual novel, and that's something that I have a copy of for the PC9821. So if I actually want to play this game and I want to emulate it, it's one of those things. I'm not going to go ahead and sit around and dump my floppies, because I can go to Myrient and basically play the exact same game I have on the shelf. Now I totally get it, I'm weird like this, but it's one of those things. When I say this is basically almost the entirety of the history of video games, I absolutely mean it, and I can't overstate just how big of a loss this is going to be. So much so that in a bit I will show you that even some of the stuff I have dumped on the arcade side of things is living on Myrient for all time. Or I thought it was living on Myrient for all time, because in the end of next month, it's going to be completely wiped. And if you need a very specific version of a game to put on a patch for translation like Dead of the Brain 2 here, it is a game I have in my collection. It just recently got translated, and when I had to actually emulate it, I actually went over to Myrient, grabbed the files, and I was able to play the game I already owned. And unfortunately, this is going to be a very familiar video, because we just talked about Valve and the Steam Machine being delayed due to AI part shortages, and that is at least in part what's going on here with Myrient, but it isn't the only thing going on, and one of them is particularly sad. If we take a look here, you'll see that this is the statement that was written by the owner of Myrient, going over all of the different reasons, and I will leave a link to this post down below as well, so you can go ahead and go over each and every one. but you'll see there's three main reasons that they're talking about not being able to continue to run the site, and the first is insufficient funding. It costs over $6,000 a month to be able to keep Myrient up, and the donations just aren't coming in enough, and it's become a financial impossibility. But that's because also people are designing and using paywall managers so they can download from Myrient without actually going through the site, and even some people are charging to be able to use those downloads for free, which I would consider this.
That's fucking greasy.
I don't like the word greasy. You mean greasy or do you mean greasy?
I mean, imagine having the absolute balls to sell access to something that is free and available online, but unfortunately this isn't really surprising. Anytime there's a dollar to be made, somebody's going to try to make it. You'll see here the rising RAM, SSD, and hard drive prices are also just becoming an issue here because hosting is going to become more expensive than it already is. AI has driven up so many different things, including my own electricity bill. ComEd now basically is almost peak hours 24/7 because of AI data centers, so my bill has doubled in like the last 6 months, even though my wife and I have actually used less electricity. Money is coming out of people's pockets because of AI, and now, in combination with scalping something that is free, you're in a situation where this just can't continue. And trust me, you're going to see more and more of this as time goes on. All of these different part shortages, RAM absolutely skyrocketing in price, and now solid-state drives as well as spinning platter drives, that is going to affect hosting. I mean, we live in an environment where you can't even go out right now and buy a Steam Deck because they're all out of stock, and that is just down to the fact that Valve and their manufacturers can't get enough parts to actually manufacture these things. So when Myrient says that AI is affecting the cost of the website and that they can no longer sustain that cost along with those download managers literally selling access to a free thing, that is why you are seeing these things shut down. Because when you're buying hosting on a website, that website, when it has to repair, expand, or otherwise increase their server capacity, has to go out and buy parts as well, and they are competing on the open market with everyone else. And because AI data centers are absolutely just blowing the price up, you know full well that cost is going to be passed on to the end consumer. These increases in component costs are not being eaten by the companies, they're not being eaten by the web hosts or the cloud servers, they are being directly passed on to the end user in more expensive hosting fees and basically more expensive everything else. And that again just absolutely sucks. We're getting to the point now where AI is literally making websites go offline, especially important ones like Myrient, just because the overall cost gets too high and AI is pushing it over the top. Now, I am not 100% blaming AI for this because, of course, again, they stated that people were actually selling download managers, making people pay money for what they could download for free, and that really isn't shocking to me, because there's absolutely some greasy human beings out there that if they see a dollar sign, they will go ahead and try to grab it. Because just so you know, if you don't know, I have celiac disease, and one Cheez-It came out with gluten-free Cheez-Its. I got exactly 2 boxes before they disappeared from grocery stores, and you know what I read, and you know where I found them? Being scalped on eBay for $15 a box. And if that's not fucking greasy, I don't know what is. And this is just going to be something that continues to happen as the economy kind of flounders like a flatfish as we have more of these AI issues. Because again, there is incredibly important stuff on Myrient, stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else. Yes, things like MAME ROM sets are going to still exist. Things like the Final Burn Neo sets are going to be available pretty much anywhere. But you'll see their Arcade Konami M2, that is literally filled with different dumps that I did for redump out of my own personal collection. That way, anyone who wants to restore original hardware, or in the future when maybe emulation gets better, can do so without any issues whatsoever because all the files are here for you today. And now I have to figure out where those files are going to go because I make sure that they get hosted so that the 3DO M2, that entire software archive, all the preservation work that I've done, as well as others, I'm not taking 100% credit for everything, just the things that I have done, need to live on the internet somewhere, because this could end up in a future where finding things is difficult, and for some of the rarest of the rare items out there, you could end up in a situation where you can't actually find them anymore. So I absolutely just hate doing this video, even though it is important, because Myrient is absolutely one of the most fundamental video game preservation websites that exist on the internet, and I know you can use the word preservation or other words. I'm sure you guys are already debating it in the comments, but the important thing to note is this is going to be an absolutely huge loss for retro gaming and for its future. Hopefully somebody backs up all 390 terabytes and figures out a way to make this available again in the future, because trust me, there are thousands upon thousands of games on there that you have never heard of before. Some games that were sold in limited copies like 25 or even 50, and if those are lost forever, the next next time you hear about it and you think, I might want to try to play that, or there is a new translation patch out, you're not going to be able to find the game to actually patch, and you're just going to end up losing out. And because of AI and people's greed, retro gaming is losing out again, and it seems like that's going to be a continuing story in 2026. But we're done. Hope you enjoyed the video for what it was, even if it was a bummer, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Greasy.